Will it be a house of horrors at Alumni Stadium, or will Boston College trick or treat Notre Dame into a win?
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Halloween, everyone. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College football for 10 years. And if you are looking for all your Boston College news, analysis, and details in one spot, you're in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is the Big Holy War prediction show. We're going to give our scary predictions. Can BC keep it close? How can BC potentially win this game? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what BC looks like and if there's any chance, and how ghoulishly good is Notre Dame. And to bring it together, we're bringing on Mitch Wolfe of Eagle Insider. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going well. The jump scare was me not having a costume or an elaborate bit this time for Halloween weekend. But like you said, this is going to be a scary game for BC fans because I do not see it going well.
So let's get into this. It's a horror themed episode of Locked On Boston College here. And today's episode, actually, I didn't say this yet. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you're moving, make every move count. Pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights of this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right. Notre Dame. They have 2 losses, but they come against 2 teams that were playoff teams. One that could be a national contender right now, I think, in Texas A&M. How good is this Notre Dame team in your opinion?
I think this is a very good Notre Dame team. I don't think that they're necessarily perfect. I think that they're really both sides of the ball have developed well over the course of the year. You saw some hiccups early on with CJ Carr having the normal growing pains you would have with a redshirt freshman quarterback making his first starts, especially on the road. The first game against Miami and then the second one against a very good Texas A&M team. Both teams have excellent defenses. And then the defense, they have some troubles against the pass. But when you watch the rest of their games, you can see that speed and very dynamic offenses can give them problems. So that'll be something to look at in the playoffs. But when they're going through their normal schedule, especially against a team like BC that doesn't have those things, that's not really going to be a problem for them because they can pretty much do whatever they want on defense because, and this is the surprising thing for Notre Dame that they didn't have under a previous head coach, that they have the athletes to hang with pretty much any team they play. And you look at the Miami and Texas A&M games, those games were close. It was a field goal loss to Miami and they lost by 2 points to Texas A&M because they messed up an extra point or something. So you play those games 10 times, they probably go 5-5 each way. Like those are close games. Those are equally matched teams. They're going to have close outcomes. And even against USC the other week, that game's pretty tightly contested. USC's got a pretty good offense, but Notre Dame eventually, puts it away. They win by, I think, 10 points, 12 points, something like that. And you could tell Notre Dame was the better team pretty much the whole way throughout, but they made some mistakes that kept USC in, but eventually they got it figured out. So this is a very good Notre Dame team, very well-rounded, and that's going to give BC a lot of problems.
So one of the biggest issues BC had last week against Louisville was the explosives. We saw Isaac Brown and the other running back both hit.
Keywan Brown. They're both
Keywan.
Browns.
Yeah, both Browns. Both hit on big runs. Jeremiyah Love is a different kind of back, but he's as good, if not better, than any of the guys that they had in Louisville. How bad is this going to get if BC's run defense doesn't kick?
Let me put it to you this way. So Jeremiyah Love might be the best player BC plays all year, regardless of position. I think Peter Woods from Clemson will be the other one that could be in contention for that honor, but it's those two guys and then probably a pretty decent gap because Jeremiyah Love's a really just incredible back. I was looking up some history, and I think there's an argument to be made that he's the best running back Notre Dame has had in the 21st century. You look back at guys like Josh Adams, Audric Estime, even go back to like a Julius Jones or what's his name? His last name is Wood. I want to say Cedric, but it's not that. It's a kind of a funky name. Sierra Wood, I believe it is. Love's just a different caliber of player. This is a guy who's going to be a high draft pick, even though he's a running back because he is so versatile. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell that he's a different type of player because when he runs, he's not really running for yardage or to score. He's running to see how much can I embarrass and punish these defenders for even thinking they have the right to share the field with me. because he's looking to spin move people, hurdle people, run over people. He's got it all. So he's a great player. And then they have Jadarian Price, who is their backup running back and would probably be a starter at every other Power 4 program in the country, let alone Group of 5. Like, he is a really good running back. He actually has more explosive runs than Love. His explosive run rate, so runs over 15 yards. 15% of his runs are 15 yards or more, whereas that's only not, and I say only 9.7% of Love's runs are 15 yards or more. So he's an explosive player. He's built lower to the ground. Love is a pretty tall running back. Price is built lower, so he's a low center of gravity, but he's still very explosive, very fast. I'm pretty sure he's their kick returner. He's had some good returns this year too, so that will test BC. So that there's no other way to put it. That's gonna be a nightmare for BC because, again, Isaac Brown has all the speed in the world and can make you miss, but Love can do the same, and he can punish you physically with strength and being able to run you over.
And they're a multi-dimensional team. Obviously, they got CJ Carr as a quarterback, but Malachi Fields, I think if BC remembers last year, the Virginia game.
And the year before. He got the Hail Mary at the end of the first half against Virginia.
Yep. Well, he's on Notre Dame too. So
yep.
If they can stop Jeremiyah Love, they then have to deal with a decent passing game. They're going to be without Jaden Greathouse, who is a pretty solid running wide receiver himself, but talk to me about their passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, I think the threat of Jeremiyah Love, it really helps make their passing attack so lethal because every team they face is so focused on stopping Jeremiyah, and rightly so, is focused on stopping Jeremiyah Love that it opens up the passing game. And you have Malachi Fields, who's a big X kind of wide receiver. He can win vertically, win in those ways. Then you have Jordan Faison, he's more of a Z receiver. Can do a lot of stuff. I believe he's a former lacrosse player, so he's got this really good open field sense. They use him a lot on screens. And their slot receiver is Will Pauling, who's a transfer from Wisconsin. Very productive. He actually leads the team in receiving touchdowns, but otherwise he's not as productive. Faison is the number one receiver in all the categories. And then they have Eli Raritan, their tight end, and it's like, oh wow, shocking! Notre Dame has another really good tight end. So he's like a veteran. Like, he's been around for a while, but they've just been so deep at the position with guys like Mitchell Evans and Michael Mayer that he's finally having his turn. And he's this unbelievable deep threat where he just finds room in the middle of the field and on seam routes, dig routes. And he's like 6'7", as the kids say. And he's a big target, but he can just run down the seam and fly. So he makes all these contested catches. So he's a problem. And CJ Carr, honestly, like, he might have the best deep ball of any quarterback BC has played this year. Like, and he is not afraid to throw it deep. Like, his spiral is beautiful. Notre Dame throws it downfield a ton just because they get all these good passing looks where it's like, okay, if you're going to leave our receivers one-on-one, we're going to take advantage of it. He has some beautiful throws attacking cover two where you hit that little gap between the deep safety and underneath corner. He's got a lot of great throws there. So that's the problem with this Notre Dame offense is that there's just really, like, no matter what you do, they have a way to defeat you. And their offense isn't like super crazy with all these like different schematic wrinkles. It's, they run the ball with they run a lot of zone, they run some duo. They don't really even use play action that much. They just run the ball and then they're like, oh, we'll throw this time. And it's just a massive gain because teams are so focused on stopping the run game that it opens up intermediate and deep passing.
And we haven't even talked about their lines, which is usually the bread and butter for Notre Dame. Tell me about what you're seeing with the offensive line. I know has a few injuries. They're missing the center, right?
Yeah. So their center, Ashton Craig, I think is out for a while. It might be the whole season. I can't remember exactly. But it's Notre Dame, so they have depth in the offensive line, of course. They're also missing Charles Jagusaw, who's this super high level recruit, but he had a off-season UTV accident, which are like the all-terrain golf carts. So he's been out for the whole year, but their offensive line's still good. Gerby Lambert, former BC commit, is of course their starting right guard. He's playing decently well.
He's not a commit. You're going to get yelled at by our fans.
Oh,
he was one that BC really wanted. Hafley wanted him bad.
My bad.
It's Traore that was a BC commit, and then he backed off of it.
Okay, all right, my bad.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean the offensive line's good. They protect CJ Carr super well. Their pressure rate, I think, it's right around 25%, so not a lot. And that helps Carr a lot because he's got it's kind of like when BC in 2020, I guess 3 and to some extent 4, where Thomas Castellanos could just sit there and there was no pressure whatsoever. It's kind of like that where Carr can just sit in the pocket for as long as he wants and do whatever he wants with the ball. And running game, like I don't think they're not like an overwhelmingly great line like Notre Dame has had in the past. That's more of a credit to those players, not diminishing these guys. It's just like in the past they've had 5 NFL starters on the offensive line, and I just don't know if they have that right now. But they're still really good. And yeah, I mean, again, BC is just really outmatched here in terms of personnel.
We're having a fun
And we haven't even
episode.
talked about the defense.
So we'll talk about that in the second segment
Yeah.
because I put down how could BC win, and I think that's a short segment that we'll talk about because we're not dealing in. It's going to be a real tough battle, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's just not about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Luca Lombardo. I am going to speak and praise Luca Lombardo every chance I get. He's one of 11 players in the FBS that is perfect 11 for 11 for a BC team that has never had kicking. Stinks that it happens in a season when you're 1-7, but Luca Lombardo has been nails. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The Charitable Irish Society has been part of Boston's history since 1737, making it the oldest Irish society in the Americas. With deep ties to Boston College's leaders and members, continue a proud tradition of service. Today, the society is still living its mission, raising thousands of dollars each year to help immigrants in need, Irish and non-Irish alike. Last year, the support helped a family from Northern Ireland who faced a medical crisis and couldn't cover rent and bills. You can be part of that impact. Membership is just $75 a year, and it goes directly to helping families when they need it most. Join the Charitable Irish Society today at www.charitableirishsociety.org. Locked on Boston College. This is our Halloween episode, and we're going to go through the terrifying matchup between Boston College and Notre Dame. Thank you all who made Locked on Boston College your first listen every single day. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, Ken, is there any way BC can keep this close? I'm not going to go with winning. Can they stay in this game?
So honestly, the game plan that I see is very similar to how last week started, where BC runs the ball well, they control the clock, they keep Notre Dame's offense off the field because Notre Dame's offense is extremely explosive. They can strike from anywhere because, again, Love has the long speed. They're willing to throw downfield. So they can do what Louisville did, where it's like, oh, BC controls the clock. That's great. And then they score in one to three plays. But that doesn't change the fact that you need to keep their offense off the field because otherwise they're going to do whatever they want and destroy you. Because, again, BC's defense is just so injured. They're not playing well. They're making mistakes. Again, they had some nice moments against Louisville, but I'm not sure how replicable that's going to be against a better team. Looking at Notre Dame's defense, there's like a very narrow path. And the path is that Notre Dame is the number one team in terms of their usage of cover one, which is a man coverage defense where you have one deep safety in the middle. This was previously BC's MO under Jeff Hafley, where this was basically all they ran, but Notre Dame's now that team. And the reason they do that is because they have a very talented secondary. Leonard Moore is one of their corners. He's back after missing some time with injury. He's an elite corner, has great ball production. He is tied for the team lead in interceptions despite missing 2 games. Their other corner, Christian Gray, is a bit more consistent. He has good ball production, but he also is pretty grabby. So his aggressiveness kind of bites him in the butt sometimes. But they are so good on the back end that they don't have to blitz. They're pretty low in blitz, even on third and obvious passing downs, because their defensive backs give the pass rush enough time to get home. I think Notre Dame has their opponents have the 11th longest time to throw in the FBS at 3 seconds, because basically they're not like blitzing, so the pressure is getting home immediately, but the quarterback is sitting there like, oh, what do I do? And he panics, and then by the time he gets like his third or fourth read, the pressure does have time to get home. You mentioned Boubacar Traore, who was initially a BC commit from Catholic Memorial High School. He's there now, and he's their leading pressure man, leading sacker. I think he has 6.5 sacks. The next closest guy, I think, has 3, maybe 2.5. I'd have to check that again. But he's a dynamic pass rusher, and they rotate their defensive line a ton, so they keep guys fresh late into games. Again, not a huge blitzing team, but that's kind of what they do. So with man coverage, in theory, and this is borne out with the stats, Notre Dame does give up a decent amount of explosive passing plays. If you get a guy free and you hit him on time, he only has the man behind him. He just has to run away, and you can get some explosive plays that way. The problem is your passing protection needs to hold up long enough, and your quarterback needs to be accurate and willing to make those throws into tight windows. Dylan Lonergan struggled against man. Grayson James is, I haven't done the extensive research there, but man has given him some issues as well, and he's probably hurt. And we don't know who's going to start a quarterback for BC. So that's one thing, and it's iffy, but it's a possible path. The other part is, again, on BC's offense, is that when I've watched Notre Dame's run defense, they're very good against the run. But part of it is that they've been able to game script some opponents out. When they've played inferior teams, they've been able to blow them out and basically force them to abandon the run late in games, so they just don't have to defend the run. But when they played the better teams, I felt like Notre Dame has been not as good against man gap runs, which are a lot of what BC does. A lot of runs with pullers, power, counter, pull, lead, what have you. And the reason why is because they are using this kind of read and react defensive front where the defensive linemen are not trying to get in the backfield. Notre Dame is dead last in the FBS in tackles for loss per game at 1.43 per game. The next closest team is two teams. It's Houston and Utah State, and they're at 2. And then it's so Notre Dame just doesn't get in the backfield. But that part of that is by design because they want their defensive line to read and react, hold their ground, and let the linebackers make the plays. And they're really good at that. Notre Dame is actually above average when it comes to the percentage of designed runs that are stuffed for 0 or negative yards. So, again, it's not technically a tackle for loss, but runs for 0 or even 1 yard are a success for the defense. But when they do it against or man gap schemes where there's pullers, it's harder to read and react to that because you're not occupying a double team as you would in zone or a combination block. You're just one guy. And with the man gap schemes, you're seeing a lot of movement. So you're having guys angle one way and then pull behind them. And that is that they've had some issues with that. Again, they're still pretty good. They still have good plays against it. But when I see the good runs that have come against Notre Dame, it's from those schemes. And that is what BC does a ton. They love to run power, love to run counter, love to run pull lead. So again, that plays into BC running the ball well, controlling the clock, and not letting Notre Dame's offense on the field. The downside of that is that when I've seen this work well, it's teams that have a really good offensive scheme, have a really good offensive line, and or have a very mobile quarterback. And BC has not had all 3 of those really at any given time this year. So that's part of the problem. And where it's like, okay, this could work, but BC might just not have the guys to do it. But again, this is like, if you're going to do this, this is probably the path you have to take, and you take it, and maybe you find some things that work, but it's again, still a very narrow path to tread.
So I talked about earlier this week that the BC Instagram page showed pictures of what looked like to me Amari Jackson and Jaden Skeet practicing. Thoughts about either of them coming back?
I mean, getting Amari Jackson would be very helpful. I think he matches up decently against a guy like Jordan Faison or Will Pauling if they move him outside. That's a decent matchup for him, assuming he's healthy. Jaden Skeet, I just feel like we haven't really seen enough of him to have a lot of faith in him to play significantly better than Dawson Pugh. Given that, again, Skeet was great against Fordham and he had one nice play or two against Michigan State, but you just need to see more, and especially against a team like Notre Dame where if I'm Notre Dame, I'm having Leonard Moore, who's a bigger corner, travel with Reed Harris. Wherever he goes, I'm having him follow him. And then I'm probably just going to say the other corner, Christian Gray, you cover the other receiver. And then their slot defender is a bit of a question mark because this is going to be confusing, Devonta Smith, who transferred from Alabama, different guy than the Eagles wide receiver, but he's been injured, but he could come back because Notre Dame's coming off a bye. So he could come back and be the slot receiver that covers Lewis Bond. And that would, again, be more problems for BC. So I think their defensive backs match up very well against BC's receivers. So I think the other injuries, namely in the front 7 for BC's defense, are the more concerning ones for me.
Yeah. And do you have any thoughts of which quarterback you would prefer to see on Saturday?
I think if Grayson James is not 100%, granted, probably nobody's 100% at this stage in the season, but if Grayson James is not 100%, I really don't see the point in putting him out there because what he brings to the offense is his mobility and his ability to be a rushing threat, whether as a scrambler to buy time. Because again, he has still been good at that, where he can break out of sacks, get out of the pocket, and at least throw the ball away. And then obviously he's a good design running threat. But if he can't do that because he's hurt, and it looked like when at the end of the Louisville game, his leg, whether it was his hamstring, calf, knee, ankle, foot, whatever, something in there was hurt. And that's going to affect your ability to. Sorry, was being super Italian. Pulled out my cord there. Talked with my hands. But he is going to be, if he is compromised from a physical standpoint to be a rushing threat, then there's really no point. And again, because what we talked about is where Grayson James is struggling to execute the quick passing game aspect of the offense. The quick passing game is going to be somewhat limited by Notre Dame's willingness to play aggressive press man coverage. But I still think that's the way you go. Is you can find some quick crossing routes, you can find quick throws to the flat against man, and I think you take that over Grayson James's limited mobility, because then he's basically the same player as Dylan Lonergan. And again, Dylan Lonergan is not a running quarterback, but we have seen glimpses where it's like, if he needs to, he can scramble and pick up a few yards or get rid of the ball, or, the defense is not going to expect him to run, so he can keep the ball in read option and pick up a few yards every once in a while. So I would go with Dylan Lonergan in this game. I would not even broach the thought of starting Shaker Rice because I do not want his first start to be against a Power 4 team that is featuring an elite defense or a very good defense, and they're a top 12 team. And that would just be a disservice to him as a player.
Yeah. So I'm kind of in the same spot. It's where James's health is at. So we'll talk and give our predictions in just a moment. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Boston College Eagles, KP Price delivered in a big way. He had an interception and a fumble recovery for the Eagles. When BC needed defensive stops, he was there for for BC. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, KP Price is not a fluke. He's on a streak. And just like KP Price delivered for Boston College, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday on your order. Stack it all up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps getting games ever exciting. Hey, you want to talk how many three-pointers Sam Hauser's going to hit? How many points Jaylen Brown's going to get? The over, the unders, parlays, they got it all. And they also have special deals every night. Thursday Night Football, they had a 30% boost to your winnings up on FanDuel. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. I also want to shout out the Charitable Irish Society for advertising. If you are a local advertiser and want to advertise on Locked On BC, hit me an email, ajblackmedia@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. I love to have local supporters of the show. So check us out. We'd love to have you advertise on our show as well. And if you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On ACC. They have a lot to say about BC. You're going to want to hear it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's get into it, Mitch. Predictions. Anyone who listened to last night's show got my predictions. I'll let you go first.
So before I do that, I want to give one more stat, and this goes to the kind of narrow path of BC finding this possible gap to exploit Notre Dame's defense. So even when Notre Dame's defense is in a light box, meaning they have 6 or fewer defenders in the area around the line of scrimmage where the ball is, when they have a light box, they rank 18th in the percentage of rushes that go for 0 or negative yards at 27.9%. and 27th in rushing success rate at 67.1%. So even when they have a lighter box, they're still very tough to run against. So again, Notre Dame is very good. It's going to be problems for BC. Therefore, my score prediction for this game is 56 for Notre Dame, 7 for BC. I think Notre Dame needs style points because they do have those 2 losses. They're close. They're to good teams, but to ensure they get in the playoff, they need to start boat racing people. And they did that against Boise State, Arkansas, NC State. You got to show up these bad teams. And obviously this is a quote unquote rivalry game where, some of these guys are, again, from Boston, where they're going to want to show up BC. I think they're going to try to get those guys scores, get those guys big plays. I think BC gave it all they could against Louisville. They made some mistakes, but they were right in there until the very end. I think there might be a bit of a letdown spot here. Got a lot of guys are banged up. Again, it's technically not an ACC game, so we don't get an availability report this week. Super. But I imagine it would be just as long, if not longer, than it has been last week. And again, BC has a big question at quarterback position. They're banged up on offense now, in addition to being super banged up on defense. I just don't really see a way BC competes in this game past the first half, and I think it's going to be really ugly. I wrote in my preview piece that I was going to say that this will be the first time that Notre Dame comes to Alumni Stadium with fans since 2017, but I don't think there's going to be that many fans there for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is, I said yesterday that I think BC doesn't have, it's going to be a real tough one for BC. Like, this is the best team that they've played by far all season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just banged up, and they don't have enough bullets.
Like, even if BC was fully healthy and Notre Dame had done the exact same season as they had up until this point, I would probably still be taking, again, BC would probably have some different results, but I think still the path for BC would be extremely narrow just because Notre Dame is super talented. They have good coaching on both sides of the ball. It's just really hard for BC to be able to compete at this level, especially given the state of the roster.
So I think BC will have a couple drives that'll prevent Notre Dame from just going up and down the field like they did against Louisville. I just think they'll be able to drive a few times just to drain the clock enough so that it won't get to 56. So I have BC losing big. I don't, as you said, I think the tandem running back is going to kill BC. They're just too slow on defense to stop that. And they get young guys that are still trying to figure things out there, and it's just going to be ugly. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame 44, BC 14. I think they'll score a few, but I can't wait to be in the press box, Mitch.
I'll be at my cousin's Halloween party, so I'll mercifully, at least, I think I'll miss the second half, which it'll probably be well in hand by then, so I don't think I'll be missing much.
So if you want, I'll be up there with Mike Sidley, and I will probably be running the game log. And if BC starts losing like you think they will, you'll notice that like my game recaps will just kind of start fizzling near the end, where I'm just like looking at the clock, talking to somebody else. I hope that they have some life. I really hope they have some life in this game.
Yeah. I mean, again, like we say this, we don't want to be this way. It's just
no, I don't.
Like, we're not going to sugarcoat this. Like, this is
what
from the performance of this team the last few weeks would indicate that this team could hang with a top 15 team that is hitting on all cylinders and is coming out of a bye week where they're going to get more healthy when they've had a few guys be banged up in here and there. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's really unfortunate because again, like it would be cool if this game could be competitive, and again, like the things that would need to happen for BC to be competitive would just be like these out of left field things. Like honestly, the thing that I see in games that like just flips the entire game on its head is if there's a fumble on the opening kickoff that the kicking team recovers, or there's like the Broncos Super Bowl where they lost the Seahawks, where there's the snap that misses the quarterback on the first play. If that those are like the two things where it's like, okay, all bets are off. Those can completely change the turn of the game, but those are extremely rare events that you almost never see happen. So
right. And just as a reminder, we're not hating on BC, as you were saying. We're not hating on BC. We're objectively analyzing what we think is going to happen. We're objectively based off of what we've seen, what Mitch saw with Notre Dame. This is the time of year where we get lots of people getting angry at us.
The other thing to keep an eye out for is if College Game Day if everybody on the desk picks Notre Dame, because then that means there's a chance.
Yeah.
or not,
I don't know. Mitch, where can people find your work?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter. You can find my work at Eagle Insider. We just had the the matchup report get published on Thursday afternoon/evening. So that'll be up and available definitely by the time you listen to this. The 3-weekly preview will be out on Friday. Check out my, score predictions, some other notes about this game, the matchups to watch, and such things like that. And yeah, that's where you can find my stuff.
And you can check me out on Eagle Insider as well. I'll have an interview on Friday morning with Notre Dame Fighting Irish Illustrated, part of 247 Network. Their interview talking. I asked more because I'm not getting into the game stuff with them. I was like, what's your favorite part of the rivalry? Do you think Jeremiyah Love could win the Heisman? I'm going with some just fun questions more on that end because that's where things are at. I will be, as I said, at the game. I will go live from the press box after the game to talk about what happened. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe. And for the folks out there, just so you know, when I record live, it doesn't mean I'm doing like a live call-in where you guys can comment and I'm going to react to your comments. That's not how I do the show. I appreciate it. I read them afterwards, but it's a like locked on.
I mean, we used to do this live occasionally, and the comments do get very distracted. Like it's very hard to do both things. Like I will completely attest to that. It's very difficult.
Right. So it's not an insult to you guys. I appreciate your comments. It's just the way that Locked On wants me to do the live shows. I just don't read them. So thank you guys for checking it out. I know a lot of you guys have been there. And I'm looking at my phone right now, and clearly the Notre Dame fans are listening to my podcast too. So if you're a Fighting Irish fan, enjoy the game this weekend. For Mitch, this is AJ. I will see you all again on Saturday evening for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.